You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments below, and be sure to smash that like button.
Nick's one of those guys that he can only do it one way. He's never going to scale back. He was never going to scale back and bring somebody else in to help him. He knows one way to coach football. And I think he'd gotten to the point where he felt like he had given everything he could. He'd done everything he could as a head football coach to make Alabama a championship contender every year. And this was the right time, the right place for him in his life and his family to walk away.
The man who broke the news, Chris Lowe. Little perspective there on Nick Saban walking away. We're here at Rouse's on Florida Boulevard in Baton Rouge, the newest Rouse's location. Gorgeous. Y'all come on by and see us. Let's go over to Alabama. Our buddy Mark Heim's been a great friend of the show for so many years. WNSP Radio and AL.com. Mark, I'm sure it's a crazy, busy time over there, but thank you for making time for us as always. How are you?
I'm great, and kudos to you over at Rouse's. We got a few over here in Mobile. I frequent the location quite frequently, if that even makes sense.
No,
how many times can you use frequently? It's been a long 24 hours.
It is infrequent that we have this type of news cycle, Mark. But you have frequently been a guest. Hey, let me just get a reaction when you heard the news yesterday. Was it expected?
No. This is the storyline that we've been getting for years, right? And so everybody from that perspective is like, yeah, of course it was going to happen sooner or later. But when it hits, it just hit different. It came out of the blue. No one around that program seemed to really know. Although if you go back and you look over the course of the past season, Matt, it kind of makes sense, right? So Chris Lowe, who you heard coming into the segment, spending a lot of time in Tuscaloosa this year, chronicling how convenient that was. Nick Saban seemed to have a little bit of a different attitude towards the media. He was a little more laid back, joked a little bit more. People were kind of hinting at it, but it's been out there for so long, Matt, that you just don't believe it until it actually happens. And even now, I don't think people fully comprehend the enormity of his decision.
Oh, we'll get to that in a second. What can you give us some kind of a scene setter? I mean, I know we've seen a lot of the tributes at the Nick Saban statue. I mean, it's like he didn't die. I mean, he's
right.
He's alive.
Right.
He's just not going to coach football anymore. But what's it been like there in the state?
There have been some. I think shock is the best word to use. But yeah, so like people were putting little Debbies at the feet of his statue in front of Bryant-Denny Stadium. The students at Auburn rolled Toomer's Corner last night in celebration that I don't remember the exact quote. Some student said the mean guy is gone or the bad guy is gone. So, we do it differently. Everything hits a little different over here in Alabama. But, yeah, I think everybody was kind of in scramble mode. I think we've always had these budgets. If you're in the media, I won't bore you with details about, with the budget if this happens, if that happens, and all of a sudden it happens. And so everybody's just thinking, let's find out as much as we can. But he – and you know this already. So he told – the players around 4 o'clock yesterday. Chris Lowe broke the story. Saban was on ESPN today, or snippets of that interview. He mentioned to Reese Davis, man, that he realized it was 3:55. He was talking to his wife Terry, and realized he had to make a decision. He didn't know which speech to give. He kind of went in there and decided it was time. So,
interesting.
It's been chaos over the last 24 hours.
Mark Heim is with us on Twitter at Mark_Heim, HEIM, AL.com, and WNSP Radio. Mark, what's been the reaction internally as far as players, coaches, as you start to look at the fallout, right? How much do we know? How much of the staff will be retained? Do we know yet? If players are going to enter the portal, what's the expectation there, staff and roster?
Yeah, so I think that goes back to the meeting they had. So they told the guys that they hope to have a decision in 72 hours. I think a lot of that immediacy and urgency was to keep guys from getting in the portal. As you know, Matt, when they make a coaching change, that transfer portal window kind of reopens, right? So now they've got 30 days. So I think that's going to be one of the big issues with whoever they wind up naming as the coach is recruiting the guys that he has and hoping that they're around long enough so that he even gets a chance to recruit them. But there's been no indication. Now, Saban, I believe, said earlier in the ESPN report that he plans on being around through the transition and beyond. I don't know in what capacity that is. I don't even know if it's an official capacity, but he made it sound like he's not going to be too far from Tuscaloosa.
Mark, is there any idea what Nick's role, if any, will be in selecting his successor?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's hinted at that he was going to be a part of it and help out. Whether or not he's the guy that says, no, I don't want him, or yes, I want him, I don't think anybody knows. I can't imagine, though, that Alabama would go without trying to keep him in the loop. The question becomes, I mean, does that wind up being a hindrance for the next guy? Do you want that guy? Do you want Nick Saban, like, looking over your shoulder, hanging out in Tuscaloosa after he's retired? I don't know, but I do think he's going to have a big say. Which might be why Lane Kiffin has been so positive about Nick Saban on social media over the last 12 months.
I'll ask you about Lane in a second. But it is always interesting who does make the decision. Look, we're in Louisiana where, man, the political climate here is so different where everybody feels like they have to have their say. What's it like there at Alabama with respect to Greg Byrne, athletic administrators, boosters, the board members, the like? How many people want to have a say in this?
Yeah, so that's going to be the big unknown. See, this might be low-key the biggest accomplishment Nick Saban managed in his time in Alabama, because before he got there were too many cooks in the kitchen. Like, everybody had to have a say, and everybody was a booster, and they're throwing money around, so they have to make the decision. And basically what he did is, I'm coming in, but I'm coming in to do it my way. Get out, for lack of a better way of putting it. And so that hasn't been an issue for years, because they gave him the keys to the kingdom. It was during the Mike Shula, Mike DeBose, Dennis Franchione years, right, where I hate to make this comparison, but it was a lot like it is at Auburn now, or has been at Auburn, where there are just too many power brokers in there making those decisions. So Greg Byrne has made the last couple hires. Nate Oates comes to mind. So the thinking is it's going to be Byrne with a select group. I don't know how many of the quote-unquote power brokers are going to be involved. But to my point, Saban had gotten rid of that whole culture, which quite frankly was impressive.
Okay, so the obvious question then is who's next? Mark, I have, again, everyone when it comes to coaching searches, it's consider everything, believe nothing, right?
Right, right.
I've had people say, hey, they offered it to Kirby, he turned it down. Dan Lanning announced today that he's staying at Oregon. Yeah. From what you know, truth to that, those two, Kirby, Lanning, were they at the top of the list?
I think most people pointed to Lanning. I didn't hear a whole lot about Kirby over here in the last 24 hours. But, this is part of, I think, Alabama's problem, or at least their fan base's problem, which is, we're Alabama, we can get anybody. No, you can't. We're in a total different era of college football right now. There's so much that goes into it now. Like, there's this belief that the superiority complex, I guess, that we can just go and get everybody. So I think the thinking was Dan Lanning or bust, and then you go to that next level, and then it was clearly Lane Kiffin wants the job. And so from a content standpoint, I'm like, yeah, bring Kiffin over. That'd be awesome. But now, Matt, I'm beginning to wonder, it might be better if he doesn't get it. So how much content would that provide? The fact that he's taking passive aggressive shots at social, on social, if he didn't get the job. But I think realistically, with Lanning out, I think you look at Kalen DeBoer at Washington. I mean, I think he's got a contract an extension sitting on his table on his desk that he has yet to sign. I know Lane Kiffin's going to be popular with some. To be honest with you, and this is where I think, Lane Kiffin has done an unbelievable job at Ole Miss. He's won it at a rate that few, if any, have ever been able to do over a consistent level, and it's just going to get better. So with that said, and this is where I think sometimes Alabama gets in its own way, there are some at Alabama that don't like some of the dramatics and social media stuff and, all the stuff that the players like. Alabama's kind of that get-off-my-lawn guy.
Sure.
So I don't know if that's going to hurt Kiffin, get your popcorn ready stuff and, all that stuff that Lane Kiffin's known for. So I would say it comes down to those two guys right now. Now, whether or not they offer either. And we don't know if they offered Lanning, to be honest, because he was on, I think, McAfee today. And, McAfee didn't actually ask him if he was offered the job. They just talked about him taking his name out of the running.
That's a missed opportunity if they didn't ask him that question.
Yeah.
So Kiffin, DeBoer, Joel Klatt said he would be surprised if it's not Kalen DeBoer, but that just may be one guy's opinion. Steve Sarkisian's a name that would make a lot of sense, right? Mike Norvell is a hot name. Are there any other names that make sense, don't make sense as this thing moves toward? I mean, Mark, if 72 hours is the target, I mean, you're talking about we should have a decision here within the next 48 hours.
Right. So, and that's why I'm beginning to wonder, the narrative is, man, nobody saw this coming. It was a complete shock to everybody. Well, not if you're giving yourself a 72-hour time frame.
Right.
So the longer this goes, and it's not that it's that long, but the longer it takes for them to name, the more I'm almost thinking that Lane Kiffin's like their backup guy, right? Like
Sure.
he's their safety school that they're going to. But no, you name the other guys that come to mind. Sarkisian, quite frankly, I don't know if it makes sense. Texas, we know all about Texas. He's certainly got him going the right way, and they're jumping in the SEC right now. Norvell I think has picked up a little steam here over the last 12 hours or so. I think people are kind of split on. I think the public perception is there's one side that says, man, they didn't like the way he handled the whole not being in, and it couldn't keep guys in the program for competing against Georgia. And there are others that say, well, he coached like hell and got the most out of his guys and made the best of the opportunity. But those guys are really the only guys that are being talked about right now.
He is Mark Heim on Twitter at Mark_Heim, Heim, WNSP Radio and AL.com. Hey, Mark, I know it's busy, man. Appreciate you making time today, and always, I'm sure we'll be in touch soon, okay?
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.